Luke Barnett, welcome to An Actor Despairs. How are you doing, brother?
Oh man, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Ah, man, it means so much having you on, dude. Like, for so long, you know, I think this is the great thing about social media. I've been a fan of you and your work, and, man, like, I know we've kind of touched base here and there about like doing this, and then finally getting to do it today, and kind of going back and revisiting everything you've done in your career, and especially going back to faith-based, man. Like, I just
Oh,
want
that's
to say,
nice.
like, I think, post Oscars right now, we're really in this weird kind of time with like the impending merger with like Paramount and Warner Brothers. But like, I think everyone, even those outside the industry, are longing for a kind of movie that doesn't exist anymore. And that what you created with that film is exactly the kind of movie that this like, this healthy middle class, like, non IP film. And it's such a beautiful story. And that's like, the stuff that I so desperately miss, both as an actor and just a consumer. And it's an incredible piece that you created there, man. And then,
Oh,
you
dude.
know, the Crossing Over Express, Dark Winds, man. We got so many things to talk about. So it's a real pleasure.
Oh, dude. Well, that's very kind of you to say, and I appreciate that. Faith based was definitely like a pure passion project that we made for nothing that got squashed a little bit from the pandemic, but it also is like the only reason I'm an actor again right now. Like that movie got me back. I took a 9 year break from acting, and so that movie got me back in. So I'm grateful you've seen it, and lucky that the people who have seen it seem to like it.
Ah, man. Well, talk to me. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Maryland, just outside of DC, right outside of Southeast DC, and I moved. My whole family's from Kentucky, and I moved to LA, man, almost 20 years ago. So 19 years ago. So this is definitely home now.
Wow. So where in Kentucky?
They're from Lexington.
Oh, okay. That's where my girlfriend was born.
Oh, no way. I love
Yeah.
Lexington. Yeah.
When did you leave there? When you were 18 or
No, I grew up in Maryland. Just all my family's from Kentucky, so we would go to Kentucky all the time. But I grew up in Maryland, just outside of DC.
where?
Clinton, Maryland, PG County, Maryland, which
I'm
is
Richmond,
just,
Virginia. So
oh, no
like
way. Yeah,
DMV,
yeah,
man. Yeah. I used to
totally.
go to Columbia all the time to like Meriwether Post Pavilion and
Yeah. Where
yeah.
I grew up in Maryland, like when I was in high school, it was just becoming that Showtime just did a documentary on it called Basketball County, because like the actual specific
Oh yeah.
like town I grew up in, more NBA and WNBA basketball players came out of this town in like a 10-year period than like the rest of the country combined. And it's like there was this period where like you would go to like a park at midnight on a Friday and there would just be like 200 dudes playing basketball there. It's pretty wild.
So talk to me about growing up. Were your parents artists or what did they do?
No, my dad drove a bread truck and was an interim pastor, so he would preach, when somebody was going to go on paternity leave or something like that, and then he drove a bread truck so that we had a roof over our head, and my mom taught kindergarten.
Wow, no way. What
Yeah,
was your dad like heavily, like into religion? Like was he
oh yeah,
actually really? So
still is about as religious as you can get. Like I used to joke that if anyone has seen the movie Saved, that was basically my high school.
wow. Well,
Yeah,
so you went to religious high school.
super evangelical Christian high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did
Hence making a movie that satirizes the Christian film industry.
that totally gives me a different lens into the film now, but I mean, talk to me about growing up in that. Did you have an awareness of that? Like maybe when you went to your other buddy's house that it was a little bit different than yours?
No, I mean it wasn't like I had a great time. I love my school, and it's like in hindsight, like there's aspects of belief and stuff that I no longer believe or take part in or whatever. But like it wasn't weird. It wasn't like Handmaid's Tale. It just felt like it felt very pure '90s pop culture high school to me. Other than the fact that we would have like chapel and Bible, stuff like that, and so it was more just like quintessential youth group '90s style. So I had a great school experience. Like it's funny, like in high school, I went to a tiny school where like our graduating class was like 75 or less. And at the time I remember wanting to like go to a bigger school and being like trying to convince my parents to like move so that we could go to like this big high school somewhere. And looking back on it now, I'm like my wife also went to a small school out here in LA, and like I'm happy that I went to a small school because I got to like be involved in so many things. Whereas like I know from talking to friends that went to like a 3,000 person high school, just numbers wise, you don't get to do quite as much. Like you're kind of lucky to be on the soccer team or be in the school play or whatever it is. And I kind of got to do all of that, which I think was which is great, you know. So I'm glad I went to a tiny school.
And growing up, like, obviously having a father who's, evangelical Christian, were you limited in what you could watch?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's funny because like to this day, yeah, it's like the age old evangelical like can't watch sex but can watch violence is fine. You know what I mean? So it's like I would still watch all the Jean-Claude Van Damme action movies and stuff. We just weren't allowed to see boobs. You know what I mean? Like you watch
Wow.
somebody like kill 100 people in the movie was fine. But yeah, we weren't allowed to. I had to like secretly watch The Simpsons and Roseanne and that stuff.
Love that. So then tell me, like, where did the pull start to kind of happen? Like, was it those movies that you're like, oh, I like this in a way that is like, more than just like a consumption level?
Yeah, I mean, I think like most people who I've talked to that are in the film industry, had some version of like you're watching movies and you want to be a part of that or you want to be in that or whatever. I definitely had that. Like, like I remember probably like half people my age like watching Jurassic Park or something for the first time and just being in like complete awe of this different world that that I was seeing on screen and then and so for younger years it was like that stuff. It was that and Monty Python's Holy Grail and just like certain movies that I was obsessed with. And then yeah, and then high school I tried out for a play that some friends were doing that was Arsenic and Old Lace that I'm sure half the high schools in America do. Um and I was really lucky because a lot of people auditioned and the theater director, she decided because she didn't want so many kids to like not be able to be a part of it, she did two shows of the same thing that year. And so she did a younger cast and an older cast. And so they had like an Arsenic and Old Lace weekend that was the juniors and seniors, and they had the Arsenic and Old Lace weekend that was the freshman and sophomore, and that was me. And I got to play Dr. Einstein, which to this day is like a bucket list of mine. Is at some point in my life to go back and play Dr. Einstein again as an adult. But yeah, dude, I remember the feeling of like he was a comedic relief character and like walking out on a stage and like I can remember this to a T. My very first line was, "Yeah, Johnny, it's a good hideout," and like everybody at this high school theater laughed, and I literally had a moment where I was like, "This is it." You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like, yeah.
And like pipeline to college wise, like were you on this like, like I don't know, University of Maryland? Like was that
No,
or
no, my mom got cancer when I was a
oh my
senior in high
God.
school, and passed away a few months after I graduated. And so the first, like, I didn't go to college right away. I did like a little bit of community college, and then I helped my dad take care of my mom for her last handful of months. And then when she passed, I kind of did random jobs while like every now and again taking a class at like PG Community College. Shout out Owls. But I would like, I had a couple jobs. I worked at a video production company that got me into like, oh, we were filming like FDA meetings and like random like corporate commercials. But that was like my first sort of like behind the camera, like, oh, this is cool. We're like making stuff. And at some point, like over the next few years, I just decided like, hey, I'm gonna make the move to LA to like go pursue the film industry. And I remember I had a roommate who's still a close friend of mine who at the time he was I think a mechanic at the time, and I said, "Hey man, I'm just trying to give you like a lot of notice. I'm gonna move to LA in like 8 months." And like 2 weeks later, he comes up to me and he's like, "You care if I move with you? Like, I don't have, I'm not doing anything here. Can I just like do it in a sunny palm, like palm trees, LA?" And I was like, "Yeah." So he moved out with me and like became a personal trainer for a long time. Like we just kind of made the move together.
I'm curious what made you decide to go for LA versus New York?
I don't know. I guess I now it's funny now. that I'm 43, I like look over at New York and like see a lot of incentive to like being an actor there and like
Come
love the
on
idea of
over.
yeah. Now I actually like love that idea. At the time, I think for me, it was just kind of like in my mind, LA was where like movies and TV
Movies. It
happen.
was
You know what I
more
mean?
binary.
Well, just
What?
TV. Just
Yeah.
it felt like LA, and I still to a certain point feel this way. It feels like LA is like movie town, TV town. It's like it's the industry town. To me, I think of in terms of broad picture, I think of New York as like Wall Street, as like the most cliche version of like a big industry within that town, and like that's undeniably what LA is. It's like where for 100 years people have moved to become actors, and so I just think that was like the natural thing. And for like one moment, which I've it's wild to like see the trajectory of where I've actually found myself working. But like at one point I had like am I going to be on, do I want to be on SNL? Like, do I want to pursue something like sketch comedy? And so I think I like read about the Groundlings at some point when I was
Wow.
like in high school or just out of high school. And so like I remember like right when I got to LA, like auditioning to do like the first entry like 101 class at the Groundlings, and that felt like the biggest deal ever because that was where Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry and everybody had like come out of. And so it's funny at the time, you're just like, this is life changing that I'm auditioning for this school. You know what I mean? Like
What year
that was weirdly part of it.
is this? Like when you got
It's
there?
probably
Like
like 2005, maybe
so
something like
like
that.
peak entourage, like business is booming, like fun LA time.
That's what I see now when I look back. At the time,
Got
it
it.
was awful. Like, I mean, in terms of as an actor, like I had zero success. So it was like, I did not feel like Entourage.
Well, I'm sorry. I mean more in the nostalgic
Yeah,
sense of
yeah.
like a healthier industry that was like, you could go anywhere in LA and there'd be filming,
Yeah,
almost.
yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure. It definitely felt like that.
When you got there, what was like your first step? Did you do the cliche like server bartender job?
Yep, I did. My first job was the Body Factory, which was a smoothie place outside of
By
the
the
ArcLight.
ArcLight. I
Yeah, by
know
the
it. Yeah,
ArcLight.
I used to go
That's
there
my
all the
first
time.
job.
I bet
Oh,
you met a lot of celebrities there. I used to get
yeah,
what was it? The Hulk. That
the
was like,
Hulk, dude.
yeah.
I don't think I realized you lived in LA for a while.
I was coming and doing like 6 months, and then I'd go back to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Body Factory. And then I worked there for like, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months. And at some point when I was working there, a guy came in. He would come in every day and like, go to the gym and then come in. And I just kind of got to know him a little bit. And at one point he was like, have you ever thought about like bar backing? And I literally was like, I don't know what bar backing is. And he was like, you basically do like the dishes and the whatever, but it pays like way more than like Body Factory does. And so I was like, yeah, you can never get me in. So he's like, come by one night. So I go to like this bar, which is to this day, like they tore it down because of affirmative domain with the W Hotel. But I love this bar. It was called Daddy's, and it was like Jeff Goldblum played there on Thursdays. It was like a
Wow.
whole thing. But I come in.
Where W on by Capitol Records is?
Yeah, this bar was
Wow.
on Vine Street, and I remember like going in and this guy being like, "Hey man, can you if you could start covering me every now and again, I get you in here." I was like, "Great." If you had asked me at this time what a Jack and Coke was, I would have known there was Jack and Coke, but like I would have had no idea that there's something else. I have no concept of like what the making a drink was like, and I completely like made up a fake resume to get my first like bar backing job where I
I did the
made up.
same at
Yeah.
Honeycut in LA.
Dude, so I made up
Yeah.
like three places in Alexandria, Virginia that didn't exist that I was like, this is where I bar backed. And then like
Pre-Chat GPT, these people
yeah,
don't even know
right.
how easy they have.
This is pre like being able to even just like easily Google it.
Yeah.
So I remember like my first Friday night at that him being like, go get me a Makers, and me being like, I have no idea what Makers is. So I'm like back there, like, it was great. But yeah, I bar managed, I bar tended, I did every bar thing for a long time. And my first stuff with like acting in LA was just all the awful stuff you do as an actor in LA, like just all, auditioning for student films and non-union commercials and like anything I possibly could. I was as desperate as it gets. And I remember at one point the only kind of contact I had in the industry was my uncle. He knew a manager who had gone to the same college as him. They didn't know each other, but he looked him up and like reached out and said, "Hey, my nephew's moving to LA," and I met with him, and he basically said like, "Look, I can't do anything for you. Like you're so green. Like I can't take you on or anything, but like." Here's some headshot photographers I recommend. Here's some classes I recommend. Do a play, do student films, do stuff, and call me like when you have something. I'll check it out or whatever. And this guy, a year later, I was in a play, like a 99 seat, LA shitty theater play, and he came and took me on as my manager. Like after that, so it was a cool, felt like a win at the time. Nothing
Wow.
came of it, but he's to this day a great guy.
Did
And it
was he
was
getting
cool.
you in for stuff or?
Yeah, he would get me in for it was interesting because his clients were so far ahead. He was an older guy, still is an older guy, even older now,
Yeah.
but he was older at the time even. He was probably like when I met him he was probably 60 and and all of his clients were like working on TV shows. They were like series regulars and guest stars and stuff like that. And so he was getting me in on stuff that I was not good enough to even be auditioning for, let alone having zero resume. So I didn't book anything with him ever. Uh, so
Were,
yeah.
were you studying at all or?
No, I did like more improv-y stuff at the time. I was more into like the groundlings and did all the improv ones that you could do a 101 or 1 or 2, but I wasn't great at that either.
Inter Interesting. Like, talk to me. Like, when you had the dream, was there an actor? Was there a filmmaker? Like, was it, like at that time, I remember like Danny McBride was so big. Like, was there anyone that like that classic LA feeling? Like, oh, if I could kind of have that pathway.
Well, it's interesting to look back. Like I've found some people don't have this. Some people it's very quick and they're very fortunate in that regard in my mind. I wish this was me. For me and a lot of people I know, I think it takes a long time to figure out. It took me, I should say this, it took me a really long time to figure out my voice as an actor, as a writer, as a filmmaker, like to figure out what I'm best at, what my sort of like lane is that I feel like I can, hopefully I can do everything. But for the most part, it's like, what do I really love? What do I excel at? And I think I was wrong for a long time. So like I think growing up watching Saturday Night Live and watching certain things, I think when I first moved out, I was looking at guys like Will Ferrell and being like, that's the kind of career, like the dream. You know what I mean? And
To
then
get
like
on SNL, you mean, or?
yeah, or like that, just that type of actor. I was gonna do sketch comedy. I was gonna do this, and later on, like looking back at it now, I'm to this day like I'm not that good at that. I mean, I'm fine at it, but like then you meet people who are like incredible. It's
Yeah.
like like my brother-in-law is probably the funniest guy I know. He's a sketch guy, and it's like that guy is so good. He's so good at writing sketch comedy, performing sketch comedy. And so it took me a long time to kind of figure out like what am I good at? And one of the things that kind of happened was I got in at Funny or Die. I had two roommates.
No way.
Well, I
That
had
was
two
like the
room.
apex days of Funny or Die.
Well, I had so to keep you on the trajectory of like how things have kind of fallen for me for better or worse. I probably pursued acting in LA traditionally for let's just say 6 years. No success, like zero, not a single TV booking or real anything. Like maybe some student films, whatever, but like no real success at all, and no real wins that I like. Maybe at the time, maybe they felt that wins, but like looking back, nothing really. And then I had two roommates. One of them was a composer who did like Juno and Up in the Air and like great movies and TV shows, and the other was an actress who worked regularly with the Farrelly brothers and David Wayne, and like she was just always in all these kind of comedy troupe stuff. And this was like peak Funny or Die, had like kind of blown up. They're doing cinematic sketch comedy, and she was like, "Why aren't you writing more? You're like funny on this and this. You should make something. I'll take it to Funny or Die. I'll be in it." So I wrote this sketch that was called Growing Up with Gosling, where I played Ryan Gosling's childhood best friend, who he had tried to like cast as the second lead in all of his movies, only for me to be replaced with a woman by the studio like a few days in. And so the sketch kind of went back and forth between me and Ryan wearing these like matching tank tops, and then clips of his movies where I'm green screened in place of like Rachel McAdams or Christina Hendricks. And this like stupid video that was probably shot for nothing was suddenly like in the LA Times and in the Hollywood Reporter, and I was like, this did more for me than 6 years of like pursuing the traditional path, you know. And so that was like a very big at the time, like a big thing for me. But as I kept making stuff with Funny or Die and doing stuff. It's funny to look back and realize like even in comedy movies and stuff that I've written, all the best stuff was always they would always take a serious turn and it would always be like that's where it was good. And then the stuff that was like pure comedy, not so good. And so it's like the first, I fully pushed in on writing and producing, quit auditioning, decided to like take the door that was opening for me, and I wrote like my first movie was a movie called Fear Inc. And I got super lucky. We made it as indie as it gets with credit cards and friends investing and all the things they tell you not to do. I didn't act in it. That movie premiered at Tribeca. But even that movie, it kind of starts off a comedy and then turns into like a pretty serious kind of thriller horror. And when I look back at that movie now, the second it takes the turn and gets a little more serious, I think it's really good. And like the first part, I don't think is very good. Like I think that's like so it's just like a lesson that like, oh, what you think you're supposed to be doing or is might not be like what you're best at. It might not be like what you naturally are. It's like I know a lot of actors who like start off thinking they're gonna like have this sort of career, and then they're like, oh, dude, maybe you should try this. You're like really good at comedy or whatever, you know, and then suddenly like a light bulb clicks. And that was like kind of for me, like I've realized now that I'm lucky to be like working is I'm good at being the like a funny character on your hour drama, but I never get close on like a lead or a major character on like a half hour sitcom. There's
Got
too many
it.
guys that are like too funny. They're too good. That's like their thing, you know?
Wait, just to understand, like you actually got the thing with like you got Gosling and you guys did that?
That was all like Funny or Die green screening and stuff.
But oh, you mean like you didn't have to get him involved? You
Shot
just
him
put
separately. They shot him separately, and then it's all like together. It looks like we're at the same place, but he was at like a restaurant being filmed.
but did that like open like did people
It
discover
it
you?
opened no, it's like
Yeah.
all these things open writing doors. So it's like that's why I like pursued hardcore into like writing. Like I kept being in stuff at Funny or Die, and that was cool and all. But over the course of like 4 years, I kind of was like, let me just keep work on like the other side of things, like writing, making stuff. That's why like when we went to go make our first movie, I didn't act in it. I just wrote it. You know what I mean? Like I pushed hardcore into what was working for me at the time. And honestly, it was like the best choice I ever made. Like I took a 9 year break from actually pursuing acting. And I think it was the best thing to happen to my acting career, to be honest.
Can you talk me through that? I mean, I actually did something similar. When did like if you don't mind for the actors listening, because I feel like there's this misconception that if like I don't go at this 1,000% constantly, I'll lose my place. Like this is, you know what I mean? Again, all or nothing mentality. Not maybe not just actors, but artists tend to have. When was the moment where you kind of realized like, hey, maybe I need to step back from this for a little bit?
I think it was more that like stepping into a door that's opening for you. And
Mm.
so like I spent 6 years again with like zero real wins as an actor. And then the second I started writing and making stuff, it felt like those doors were opening rapidly for me, comparatively at least. You know what I mean? So suddenly I was like, I had a lit agent, I had a lit manager. These are things I didn't have an acting agent. I didn't have,
Wow.
like doors were just kind of opening for me. And so I just like I had a conversation with my wife, and my wife was very much like, I think you should go all in if you like it. Like if you like writing and you like producing and making stuff, I think you should go all in on what is working and what's like opening in the doors. And it was like a great, I'm glad it was like the best choice because I got to spend the next handful of years like working as a writer and as a producer and making indies and doing this stuff. And then I got back into the acting side of things completely organically. Like we went to make this movie Faith Based that you mentioned. And at first, that was going to be a thing that we shot on our phones for $10,000 with just our friends. And then we were going to improvise the whole thing. And then we decided, like, I'll write a script. So I wrote the script. And then we were like, you know what? Let's send it to, like, let's try a couple actors. And we tried Lance Reddick. And we offered him a role in this movie. It paid $241 a day. We said, no way Lance Reddick's going to, like, do this movie. and we got this call and it said, "Hey, Lance loves this script. Lance wants to be in the movie. Lance wants to play a different character named Nikki Steele, which was like the one
Oh yeah,
scene,
the
the
Jason
funniest thing.
Alexander. Yeah.
Exactly. Which is like not who we imagined in it. We imagined a Jason Alexander. And so we called Lance's agent back and said, look, Lance can play whoever he wants to be in the movie. If Lance wants to play Nikki Steele, Lance is Nikki Steele. But could we just talk to Lance? And he was like, yeah. So he got us on a call with Lance. And I said to Lance, I said, look, you could play Nikki Steele. You'd be hilarious. You'd be great. But like at the time, it's like Lance was going to play my adoptive dad, and that to me was funny. And it was like every time you
It
see
is
it,
funny. It's great.
well, every time you see a movie, it's always like an affluent white family that's adopted a black kid or an African kid or whatever, and you never see an affluent black family that's adopted this white kid who also turns out to be kind of a fucking loser. And I was like, I talked to him about it, and he's like laughing on the phone, and he's like, "All right, let me think on it." And like the next day, we get this call. It's like Lance doesn't want to play Nicky Steele; he wants to play the dad. So then we had Lance, and then we were like, "Okay, we got Lance. We should shoot this with real cameras." And so then our DP was like, "I got access to these two red heliums that we can use for free if we can shoot it in like April, May." So we're like, "All right, we're gonna shoot in April, May. Now we have real cameras. We need a real crew." We were like, let's offer some of these other smaller roles to some people. So we like try Margaret Cho, and then it's like Margaret Cho wanted to do it. And also we got all these people that I then went to the director and I said, look, if we got Jason and Lance and Margaret Cho and David Koechner, we should recast us. Like we should put famous actors as the two leads. Like I haven't been pursuing acting in 9 years. And to the director's credit, he was like, no, I want to keep you two as the lead because you're real life best friends, and I want to see that on film, and then everybody else can be like a bigger name around you. And I was like, all right. And then like when we were in post on that movie, an agent from Innovative who had worked with us to like cast some of the parts, she called me and took me to lunch, and she was like, "Hey, you want to get back into acting?" And I was like, "No, I don't want to go back to doing what I was doing like before. Like I don't want to go back to just like pursuing student films, non-union commercials, and all that stuff." And she was like, "No, we're going to use faith-based, and we're going to like put you out there as if this is a brand new person. And she was the best thing that ever happened. Still my manager to this day, and she got me like
Wait,
it was.
Innovative. She left to start a management then, or
She has since left
oh god,
Innovative and started a management company, but at the time she was at Innovative, and like she single-handedly at the time took a big bet on me as an actor who had no credits, and she has been the best thing to happen to me. Like she got me working within like a year and a half, and like we've had a good little like run at it since.
wow, what so many questions I kind of want to unpack here because I feel like this is amazing, and we're in this constant like create your own content era where it's just this refrain you hear over and over again. How did you, and I know this is like a harder question, but like how did you learn to write? Like, was it just these improv classes where you were kind of forced to write sketch and then that evolved into like, did you do, like, did you ever do any time in a writer's room? Like,
No, it was honestly like a lot of just like diving into the deep end, dude. Like writing sketches kind of just was over the time, doing it myself, doing it with Funny or Die and stuff. And then we made a short version of Fear Inc., which is the first feature I wrote, and it had done pretty well as a short. And so when we went to go make the feature, one of our producers that I'm to this day very close friends with, she was like, "Hey, should we go find a writer for the feature, like that's written features?" And I was like, if it's cool with you, I'd love to try it. I'd love to like take a shot at writing the feature first. So I kind of like literally like learned by reading a ton of scripts, reading his stuff, and I wrote the feature version of Fear Inc. And like we got a lot of great notes from people, from like producers that we were friends with. And
wow.
I'm lucky to like to this day live in a place where I have lots of friends at various places in the industry that like I can get feedback from or have a table read and invite them to it. And so we got great feedback, and the script kept improving, and it's like that was the first one. And then you just kind of keep doing it. Then you're gonna do the next one. Nothing happens to that one. You write another one. It just like kept happening.
Did you bother with like Save the Cats and Field? Like, did you read all of those or?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think any writer will tell you it's important to like learn the rules so that you can break them. So it's like I definitely wanted to like learn general screenplay structure and stuff. But I also think it's like I think you can definitely learn same as acting. I think you can learn the skill and you can learn certain things, but I do think there like any of us, there's people that like pick up a basketball and they're just like really natural with it. You know what I mean? It's like I think there's people that are great fucking writers. It's like I think there's people who are just naturally charismatic on screen. Like there's certain things you can teach. There's certain things that I think you just are good at naturally. And I think if you can over the course of many years figure out what you're good at naturally and push more into it, then I think that's where kind of like luck comes into play.
And do you feel like you kind of felt when you wrote that as you started to write more and more, did you feel like it came easier to you than maybe acting did in some ways, or
I don't know, because honestly, with both of them, I'm not exaggerating when I say the first feature script I wrote was 2015, premiered at Tribeca 2016,
that's
and
Fear Inc.
that's Fear Inc. And I
Okay.
would say the very first, I got back into acting at least seriously in 2021. And
Wow.
so let's
Wow.
just say it's 2021. That's 2020, 2015. And I would say honestly, I don't think I figured out my voice as a writer, a filmmaker, or an actor until like 3 years ago. So it's like I think those things for a lot of people just take time and like doing it over and over again. Like I look back at scripts I've written that I think I learned from them, I got better from them, but I wouldn't like right now say I wouldn't show that to someone now as an example of like what I think is my best writing, you know?
100%. We're in that time, that big break, did you mourn acting? Did you miss it? Was it weird being in LA? Like, you know,
No, I was pretty focused at the time on making stuff, like on writing and on making stuff. And it's like that was, every now and again I get like if you look at, when somebody goes to my IMDb, it doesn't look like there's just like zero things for that 9 years because friends would call me and stuff and be like, hey, do you want to say one line in my short film or whatever that I would do? And so I every now and again got to like scratch that itch or whatever, you know what I mean? But I was pretty focused at the time on uh kind of pursuing writing and producing.
and you were you at a different bar at this point, like for survival or
Yeah, I worked at I got it was a blessing and a curse. I got very in with like a really cool bar group called Vintage Bar Group, and I my first job was like a bar called the Well. Then I worked at a bar called the Woods. I met my wife at the Woods. I moved to the Valley and went to a bar called No Bar, which these
oh
guys owned
yeah.
all of them. So I managed No Bar for like 9 years. And I was in that world for like most of that time.
Wow.
And on one hand, it was great. Like I love the life experience that I got there. I think it translates to a lot of the stuff I'm working on now. But I also think I got like a little too into it in the sense that like I started like opening bars with them and like I got really into like treating it like a career, So I think it was a bit of a time suck in that regard.
Almost like the Randy Gerber path in some ways, like, did you see that, like the lounge and the tequila, like or not that far,
Not that far, but like
yeah.
definitely into like it wasn't just a part-time job.
And talk to me as someone who bar backed and maybe you just don't have the bug in you. Like, how did you stay away for the artists listening? Because it's easy, I feel like so many of these hospitality jobs, both in LA and New York, it's easy to get a lot of like free booze and great drugs. Like, how did you stay away from that?
I definitely didn't stay away from the booze. Like, not, it was never to a point that I like hit a rock bottom or like I've cut down a ton now that I especially have kids and stuff. But I never got to a point that I felt like I had to go get sober or something. But I definitely look back. I have mixed feelings on that because on one hand, do I think that like the amount of like drinking and stuff that I was doing in the bar industry slowed down my career? Yes. Did I have a great time in my like 20s and early 30s? Also, yes. So it's like I don't know. I don't know exactly how I feel about like I was talking to my wife about this because we met at a bar and both had like a pretty fun 10-year period. And we were talking about like on one hand, I kind of regret it because I would have probably like been pursuing acting better or doing whatever. On the other hand, it's like we never had a major problem and we had a great time like in
Yeah.
that time period of life. And now I look back on it like as a dad. I'm kind of like, oh, your wife, my wife and I had a great time for that period of our lives, and it is a great lot of life experiences that I call to when I'm acting or writing or whatever. So, but yeah, I definitely had a little too much fun, and there was I think a lot of people in my life who did get super into drugs and stuff, and I don't really know how I stayed away from that, from like it getting out of control. Like it never really got out of control for me, other than like drinking on shifts, and like that was just the bar vibe when you're
Yeah, I get
25
it.
in Hollywood, you know.
Yeah, totally. And a great group to get in with. That's amazing. And then talk to me, like, as you kind of like get to this point where streaming is starting to happen, did you, because your film got into Tribeca, did you start to kind of like not concern yourself with the pitfalls of the shifts of the industry because you had this momentum going on your own?
Well, I think I don't know about that to an extent, but like I will say the best thing to this day about the writing side of things or the filmmaking side of things is like the best thing about being a writer and a filmmaker on top of being an actor is that it takes a little bit of the pressure off the acting side. Like it's not that I don't care about auditions. I do. I put in the work. I definitely have auditions pop up that I think would be a really big deal and they get me like really disappointed when they don't happen. But I also know that I'm like working on my own stuff and that's the most freeing feeling ever to be like to finish an audition and be like or not get it or something and then be like, ah, that sucks. But like, cool, I'm working on this thing that's set up at this producer. I'm working on my script. I'm gonna go make this short. It just like takes a little bit of the like. I feel like it's something that I have control over to an extent. Like I can go make shorts with my friends. I can go make stuff and feel like I can generate my own momentum versus only relying on somebody to give me the chance.
I love that for you. And while, shooting faith-based, like did you really enjoy getting that chance to kind of dive fully back in there? And I mean, come on, Lance Reddick,
Yeah.
man. I mean
No,
what an icon?
it was the best. And like he's maybe the one like quote unquote celebrity that's passed that like I actually had become really close with. Like he was the best. Like he and his wife I'm still good friends with. It's like he was the greatest guy ever. And so like that whole thing felt very surreal. And it was definitely like the best way I could have possibly come back to the industry was to have that experience and to feel what it felt to like be a major role in a movie, and even if it was really small, the movie itself, it still was like, oh, this. It definitely like gave me the bug hard again to be like, oh, this is what it's like to be on set and to like be. It felt very surreal to like be working with Lance and Jason and stuff like that. It was an incredible experience.
What year did you shoot that?
20, 20? No, 2019 because yeah, 2019.
So then, I think we were messaging before, obviously this, like it kind of got trapped in that COVID release time.
Yeah, it was one of those things where like it got it did really well with like critics and stuff. It's like 97% of Rotten Tomatoes, luckily. But I mean it came out like peak COVID. It was already a small movie. Like it just like never got seen by anybody. But it still, got me my agent. It got me back into the industry. Like I'm grateful for that experience. It'll always be there. But yeah, definitely got squashed in terms of people actually seeing it.
But I remember before I even knew you, I would like see it on the iTunes like icon. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that was great.
Like, tell me. I mean, if you don't mind sharing, like, what did your dad think of it?
My dad, it's so funny because like my dad texted me halfway through it and he said he had to turn it off. He like did not like it at all. He was like really disappointed and like bummed out. And then he finally like went back and finished it and he really loved the ending of it because he was like worried that it made the dad look so bad and like that like all this all the stuff and then for those who haven't seen it, it's like the dad and the son do have a good moment at the end of it and stuff. And so he liked it by the end. I don't know that he
Oh,
loves anything that satirizes something that he's very
right.
passionate about, but it is what it is.
A beautiful moment. And then
Yeah.
tell me, like, when you got back in, then, where's this level of like, did you go back to an acting class? Like, did you, talk to me about your process for kind of jumping back in from this? Obviously, you did a film, which is very much the ultimate practice, but like, what was your process like for warming the chops back up, so to speak?
It was great. I mean, it took me, it's just, again, took me a while. Like I go back, my manager and I, who I'm just one of my best friends, we every now and again have these little moments of like, kind of look where we've come over the last 5 years or whatever. And like, it's funny, one of those things is like, you look at a demo reel or whatever from like 2021, then you look at your demo reel now and hopefully you can see some improvement. But I looked at a few auditions recently that I had done right when she took me on, like 2021, and they're just so bad. It's like, I mean, they're not awful, but like it's definitely like took me a while to get my, to get the chops back. But it was great. And honestly, like it was the best way I could have done it. Coming back older, coming back with her, with the movie. It's been great. It's funny though, dude. It's like I'll never forget the very first like thing I really booked with her, like bigger thing, was a guest star on NCIS LA, and I cried. Like it was so monumental to me mentally. I think that I had had a moment because of the 6 years of pursuing it with the manager where like nothing happened, and then the 9 years off. I think in the back of my brain, I literally had a feeling of like, it is not possible for me, Luke Barnett, to book a TV show. Like I did not think it was possible. And so like when I booked NCIS LA guest star, it was like I couldn't believe it. It was like the greatest phone call I'd ever gotten at the time. But like that's the journey, man.
Wow, I love that, man. And then obviously getting, that guest star credit, it kind of gives you the leverage to not just be going in for co-stars then. Obviously you're on Dark Winds now for All Mankind. Like, was it an amazing experience getting to go on these sets and work with these different titans and, I mean,
Yeah, I mean it's dude, it's been the best. Yeah, I've been super lucky to like be working since that. But like yeah, and it's such a roller coaster. It's always it's the beauty of this industry. It's like it's a double-edged sword of like, it's just highs and lows, strikes and gutters, but like I've been super lucky to be working on those shows and stuff. And honestly, like not to just stay on the like make your own thing, but like, I can't dive too much into it in this conversation, but like I'll just say this: Dark Winds happened directly because of the Crossing Over Express. And so like I
let
cannot
let me
say
tee
enough
that up.
things.
So there's this incredible short film that you did. Where did the impetus for this come from?
Uh so my mom died when I was 17, and because of various reasons, I have barely any pictures of her and I have zero video, and I only give that context to say that I hadn't heard her voice in 20 years. And maybe 5 years ago on my birthday, I get a text that just says happy birthday and it has a YouTube link. And I click it and it's my mom. And I'm like, what the hell? And I pull over into the 7-Eleven parking lot, and it's this video. She's talking to camera. She's saying she's proud of me. She wonders if I've become, a clown or a pastor or a policeman. And I'm like bawling in this parking lot, like, what is this? And it turns out I had a friend from high school, still to this day, a good friend of mine. His dad, I think, was moving and was like going through some VHS tapes, and he found a tape the parents had recorded before some sort of high school event that never got used. And so he cut it out and digitized it and sent it to me. And it was like, to this day, the greatest gift anyone's ever given to me. And I thought, you know, what if we could have one last conversation with people? Because my brain obviously went to like, I wish I could respond to this video message that I got. And so that was the impetus to this short that we ultimately shot in one day with a
Wow.
skeleton crew for like no money. Uh, and that short film changed my life. Like that short film did more for me as an actor, as a writer, as a filmmaker than any of the features, any other thing I've been a part of. Like that 10-minute short film changed my life.
More than faith-based.
100 times more than faith-based.
Wow. And talk to me about like the willingness to just put it online. I feel like so many people are like, well, let's get it into festivals. Like,
We did too, man. We didn't get into any of them. Like we didn't get
really?
we didn't get it. We got it. I don't want to talk down on some very cool festivals, but like we did get to play some cool like smaller genre festivals and stuff. But like we didn't get into Sundance. We didn't get into Tribeca. We didn't get it. And I was an alumni at Tribeca. We didn't get into TIFF. We didn't get into Fantastic Fest, South by. We didn't get any of those. And so eventually, after we played a couple like smaller festivals, I put it online and it got into short of the week, which I'd always kind of wanted to be a part of. I'd get into short of the week. We got in short of the week, put it out, and they did a great job. Like I love their page, love how they did it. But like a few days in, I just kind of had seen the response from sending people the rough cut, and I was just kind of feeling like I think this could be seen by more people. Like I think this could do better. And so after like a few days of it on short of the week, I just decided to upload it to Twitter with my story, and I woke up the next day and it had 500,000 views. And then it was in all of a sudden like Variety and the Hollywood Reporter reached out wanting to talk about it, shared by tons of filmmakers that I've been a fan of for a long time. It was shared by lots of, Patton Oswalt,
I
lots of
saw that.
actors
Yeah,
all
Pat.
shared it.
Yeah, yeah.
And and it just kind of took off from there. And it's wild, dude. I don't think I'll ever make something that'll have that sort of effect on people again. Like to this day, I get a message at least every 2 weeks, if not every week, from somebody that's literally like, I lost my uncle 3 weeks ago. I've watched your short a half a dozen times. It's my new like cathartic thing that I go to when I think of him. Like I get these heavy, heavy messages. But as an artist, that's the greatest gift
Yeah.
we could ever be. Like it's crazy, dude. I get this. So it's been very surreal to have made lots of things that you think are gonna like do things for you, and they don't, or nobody sees them, or they don't turn out how you expect them to. And then you make this like 10-minute short film for fun, and it's like the thing that like kind of helps you
Wow.
out.
And you specifically mentioned Dark Winds came out of it. How did that happen? One of the writers or
Well, I can't get too far into that story right now, but I will say this: the sheer amount of things as an actor that I have gotten directly because someone saw that short film is more than like the 5 years of acting before. Like
wow.
I worked all year last year. I already, it's like I'm lucky to be working this year, and it's like most of them. I won't say all because I love my reps dearly who do get me auditions, but I would say the majority of work I've gotten has been somebody who saw the Crossing Over Express and then brought me into audition or offered me a role or whatever it was. Um, and it's crazy, dude. It's like, yeah, certain little like even like not huge studio stuff, but like I'm doing a big indie this summer in Austin with like a filmmaker I've respected for many years. All the main cast is much more famous. I'm not famous at all, but they are famous. And he offered me a role in this, like a good role because of the Crossing Over Express. And that's not the first time. So it's like I can't say enough about, and it's also not just about like go make a thing. It's like the Crossing Over Express was so personal to me and so I hate this as a buzzword, but like if I'm only proud of one thing of that short film, it is undeniably authentic because it is fucking real. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like you can't generate that necessarily unless it's something that's like really from who you are and it's the only you can tell.
Wow. I love that, man. That's so beautiful. And did I see that it's being turned into a feature?
Yeah, first yeah, it hasn't been announced yet, but first offer goes out tomorrow. So we're like trying to put that. They're putting that we have producers on that, and they're like, we've been writing that script for like the last 9 months, and I'm super proud of it. It's like it kind of has a bit of a like an Edward Scissorhands feel to it, where it's about
Wow.
this, small town and like how they can be affected by this person who comes into their town.
Amazing. And you wrote it entirely by yourself?
No, my buddy Tanner, who co-directed the short with me, wrote this script with me. And as of right now, the plan is for me to still get to play that character, but I'm also the first because we're directing it, and it's like one of those things where if we can't if we can't get the ball up, the rock up the hill with me attached as that character, I'm the first person to choose to step down and like recast me. But as of right now, it's like the original way these producers took it on was, they liked the short and they want to see the feature version of that. And so hopefully it gets to live that way.
Incredible story, man. So beautiful. Thank you
Oh,
for
it's
sharing
nice.
that. I'm so proud of you, man. And
Oh,
that's
it's
like
nice, dude.
justice prevails and like to not give up and like obviously, like you spend time on X, I spend time on X. It's a wild time in the world and in the industry and I think there's two schools of people, the people that kind of came up one way with the in the room auditions and now that is collapsing and now there's also this proliferation of movie stars doing television, some doing like nine different shows. So
Yeah.
it feels like, there's higher and higher tiers of people competing for less and less work. And there's also this generation of actors that never got to go in the room and feel like they send these self tapes in the ether. And I've asked every guest who's ever done this podcast, this, but it's a really strange time, if it were you starting now, any words of wisdom you have for those fighting the fight?
No, I mean, here's the thing. As much as I can still agree that like things are evolving and things are changing, people have found things to complain about with how difficult this industry with for 100 years. Every decade, there is a new thing that someone says this is not happening because of this. Now there's this strike. Now, it's like there's always going to be monumental shifts happening that change. Streamers come in, they knock out DVDs. You know what I mean? Like before that, there was only going to the movies. It's like these things just keep evolving. And if you let that be your mindset, you're always going to be in a negative place of this is not going to work out for me. No one's watching my tape. No one cares. It's all the roles are going to movie stars. And honestly, that's just not true. Like I can tell you firsthand, I just did the Burbs, okay? And the way that this happened was I got brought in for a big role, like in every episode. Didn't get it, zero feedback. Felt really good about my tape, but like didn't hear anything. No idea if they watched the tape. Month and a half later, they bring me in for a 4 episode role, and I also felt good about that. And we got a little feedback. They liked the tape, got passed on. Don't hear anything. Don't book it. But at least I knew like somebody watched the tape. A month after that, we get an email that's just like a direct offer for a 1 day, one scene episode. Great. I had a great time doing an episode of The Burbs, tiny, tiny role. But all that did for me was say, they're watching your tape. If they're watching that tape. They watched my first tape. They watched the second tape. They then offered me a thing for this third one. Um, they're watching the tapes. You keep putting in, you keep doing the work. You keep getting better. It's like it's ultimately if you're doing that, it becomes a numbers game. It's like opportunity is going to come. One I didn't get last year was like Spider Noir, the new Nick Cage Spider-Man,
Mm.
and it was like same kind of thing. Had a great audition for like a huge role. I found out that they were passing it on. I was like, man, I'm about to book this. Like the conversation was like in my mind, I was about to be Brendan Gleeson's like right hand guy. Don't
Rachel
get it.
Tenner, great casting director.
Great casting director.
Yeah.
So don't get it. But they sent the nicest email to my manager that was like, man, we loved Luke's audition for that role. Obviously, it didn't go his way, but we want to put him in the opening of the first episode as this bartender that Nick Cage walks up to the beginning of the pilot. So I'm like, holy shit! They're like, pin him. So I'm like, great. I'm gonna. This is great. It's one episode, but it's great. Then a week later, I'm like, man, am I still pinned? They haven't done the offer or anything. And then they're like, they rewrote the script. They're going a different route. And I'm like, So
Oh,
I don't get it. Then a month later, Rachel brings me in for another little role and don't get it. Month later, she brings me in for another little role. This another bartender that's in like this one episode pins me, my third pin in this scenario. Don't get it. Never booked it. Never got the show. 3 pins, 4 auditions, didn't book the show, but they were watching the tape. Like
yeah.
I don't buy into the. I'm sorry. I guess that's a long-winded way of saying I don't buy into the like they're not watching the tape because I've seen it too many times. Whether it's a co-star or a series regular, they're watching the tapes. So like you just have to keep doing good work, and like it becomes, you just have to stay in it. It's like it's ultimately like this whole industry is like a survival situation. It always has been, and I also think like it's a mental game. Like I have a person I know who, you know, is an actress, okay, but has not auditioned for a student film or a short film or anything like that in 10 years. Like she's not really pursuing acting. And every time we go get coffee or something, it's the most negative coffee I've ever had, where everything is just a complaint and like the industry is doing this and the strikes and all this stuff, and nothing ever looks up. And it's like not to go all like woo woo laws of attraction sort of thing, but like if you're constantly thinking the industry hates me, the industry's dying, no one's watching my tape, that role's going to go to Jake Gyllenhaal, that stuff, then like you might as well just do something else.
Yeah.
Like, because the rest of us are like, dude, I'm going to keep putting my tapes down. I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep making my own stuff. I'm going to keep taking classes. I'm going to keep meeting with friends that are also actively doing it. And those are all the same people I know who are making shit happen. So it's like at a certain point, you got to like Tony
Get out
Robbins
of the despair, if you will.
get out of the despair
Yeah.
and like,
No, I needed to hear that, man. I'm that I'll be honest, I'm that person right now.
dude, and it's
Yeah.
impossible not to sometimes
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
it, but here's the thing too, you got to think we all know this from social media and the world of Donald Trump and all this stuff. Negative stories will always get more clicks. And
Yeah.
if you can try to like remember that every time you see another headline that's like, no one's in the studios, no one, this is the lowest it's ever been in the history of the world. If you're an actor, you're dead. AI is taking your career. If you remember that these headlines are always going to get more clicks and they're always going to do more of these articles, they're not going to get any clicks from an article that just says, hey guys, we're looking at the IATSE thing, and there's actually like more shows in LA this year than there has been in 6 years. That's pretty positive. That's a boring headline. No
Yeah.
one's going to like share that wildly, but that's the truth. I just saw that thing. No one's sharing that. They're only sharing the like, man, quarter four.
Yeah.
No one was filling the studios. We might as well leave. You know what I mean? It's like choose how you take it in.
Ah, the beautiful answer. I mean, tell me, I apologize if this is like an uncomfortable question, but like, do you think there is a world now we're entering where like it's okay for kids to like, maybe not entirely like plagiarize, but like when they have an idea for a short to like run it through AI? Is that something that is like a tool, or do you think that is something that like robs away the actual craft and technique of writing, you know?
I think where AI is going to be useful is any version of like organizing things. Like in terms of like for writers and stuff. Like I've had plenty of times where like I just now got I had a notes call on a script, and on the call I'm like jotting these notes down as sloppy as it gets. You know what I mean? Just being like this up Janine and page whatever. And I literally copied and pasted that into one of the things. It was like, can you organize this for me as like a really thought through way for me to tackle this next draft? And it was like in 5 seconds, it was like an incredible, like
Dossier.
here's this is it was great. And I think that's like a great tool that like people can choose or not to choose to use depending on how they feel about Claude and chat and all that stuff. And I'm okay with using it for I mean I think the negative is that as you'll see, if you ever use chat in certain regards, you start to realize like I mean, it's a South Park made a whole episode about this, but it's like
Sycophantic.
it's a total yes fan, so
Yeah.
yes man. So it's like it's always going to tell you your idea is great. It's like, oh Ryan, people would love to watch a story about your ear surgery. That
Yeah.
sounds awesome. It's the most in-demand thing in New York, and you're like, oh great, I'm going to write
I
my ear surgery short.
know.
Or meanwhile, like nobody wants to watch the ear surgery short. But it's like, so I think it's like that's where it becomes dangerous, and also like it is so generic that it's like I can always tell when somebody sent me something that they use chat on. So it's just like I think like any tool, if you can figure out how a way to use it that just helps you in some regard, then like it's not going anywhere. So it's
Yeah.
like I'm okay with it in that regard. I don't think it's ever going to like I to this day have not seen a narrative piece of content posted on Twitter with AI that I thought was remotely good.
Hmm.
Even I had a thread once with a guy where I said, "Show me one short, like an AI short or whatever, that you think is so great that I will be like blown away by." And he sent me something that was so clearly someone putting a thing in, being like, "All right, make me the Mandalorian, but with like Rick and Morty sense of humor." And it's like, great. I mean, like, cool, dude. It's like the reason, the thing that made Rick and Morty so do so well is the originality of that voice. And now you just have like a shittier version of it. It's like I'm not worried about it like taking the stuff that I like watching or I like making. I'm worried like if it's gonna take anything, it's gonna take like really bad, low-hanging fruit TikTok branded content that's like easy to replace because it's shitty anyway, and it's like already, or like in the worst case, some version of like the verticals or whatever like the worst content that's
Yeah,
being made is. Sure, can AI take that? Yeah. AI is not like making train dreams. You know what I mean? Like
100%. Yeah. We, uh, incredible. And, I mean, tell me, man, like,
sorry,
you
I'm
know,
like ranting, dude.
no,
Sorry.
no, no, this is amazing. Like, do you outline before you write?
I do. I have no concept of how people write without an outline. Like the two times I've ever written a script that I did not have a detailed outline, both times I made it to like page 45. And then I was like, and then it's just like
What am I doing?
I think to that day those two scripts are sitting on a file somewhere at page 45. So
Wow.
for me it's like I need to like that's the hardest part to me is like figuring out the outline. But once the outline is in a good place, I do like multiple phases. I do like a one pager, like I'm doing it right now. Like we did a short in the short I talked about in December called Goodbye Monster. That's the thing with Patton Oswalt. And in the short, I want to do a feature of it. So I did like a one page version of like what it could be. And I sent that around to like some key creative friends and said, any thoughts on this? People were like, oh, I like this. I don't like this. What if you did this? You know, then I did another version of that. People were like, oh, that's cool. I like that. Then I took that and do like a scene by scene of like, okay, let me do a longer, this is maybe like a 6 page version of it that like kind of lists out exactly what happens in that movie from start to finish. Get some feedback on that. Oh, I don't like this one. I don't like this one. I like this one. Great. Now that's in a good place. Then by the time I go to actually write the script, I'm painting by numbers. You know what I mean? And it's like much easier for me.
Wow, amazing. Thank you for sharing. And man, this has like been incredible, Luke. Like I am
Great
just
chat,
so
dude.
proud for you, man. Like
Oh, it's very
I
kind.
I sincerely mean this. Like whatever, one of these films comes next, whether it's the feature version and crossing over, especially like, please come back on. Like,
Oh,
you
dude.
know what I
Thank you,
mean?
man.
Like I know there were some things that
It's
you
great to
talked
chat.
about you cannot like dig into yet, so I'd love to like fully be
For
able to dig
sure.
into those things with you, man. But
No,
you,
for sure. And I honestly like I was really excited to come on the podcast because it's like having been someone who pursued it to zero wins for a long time, for 6 years, and then took a 9 year break and came back into it. It's like I very much know how hard and daunting and impossible this industry feels. But I've also gotten been lucky to see some other wins in it to see like how possible it is. And so I think it's like for me, it's like people just need to get a taste of that a little bit to like
yeah.
keep them going, you know?
I guess to kind of like end on a positive note, if you could go back to, I don't know if you were exactly 18, but let's say 18-year-old Luke at the Body Factory, any words of wisdom you would have to say to yourself?
Yeah, I think I would want to just like tell myself that it takes time and that like you're pursuing something that is quite literally as difficult as saying you want to be in the NBA. You know what I mean? Like that's how insane this business is. And for you to have success, it's going to take a lot of time, and that's okay. And I would also tell that guy to like start making his own stuff and start doing stuff earlier. Like I wish that that had been something that I started doing earlier on because I think I was good. I think I'm good at that, and I think that's a way. Anything that you can do that's your own niche
Yeah.
to like get past the door, I think is helpful. Like whatever makes you unique, and whatever is like a skill set that you have that might not be what everybody else has, that's going to be like helpful to you.
Amazing. I love you, brother. I hope we get a chance to
Good.
work together and to be continued, man.
Me too, dude.
Yeah. Rock and roll.